Thank you for everyone who's joined this session. So this is the last Inleeds session for this term, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Just for some brief advice, the session is being recorded, so you can watch it later on as well. It will be uploaded on the Inleeds YouTube channel. And as I said, this is the last Inleeds session, and this session is all about digital opportunities in Leeds. And it covers how digital opportunities are more than just the tech sector. So we have Matt from Made.by.studio with us today, who's going to talk about his creative design and development company, which is based here in the city. So Matt will be doing a presentation for us. And throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We also have the Q&A option, as I mentioned earlier, and you can use that. But before we start on with the presentation, I just have a tiny poll for you guys to fill out. It should appear for you now. So it's just to give us a brief idea, which university are you from, if you're a student or a graduate, and if you're thinking about staying in Leeds after you graduate. So if you can all please fill that out, that would be great. While we're doing that, just a bit of introduction about myself. I am Tanpreet, as you can see, my name's highlighted there, and I'm a current University of Leeds student, and this year I'm doing a placement year here at the University of Leeds Career Service. So it's lovely to be hosting this session today and hoping to see you all answer the poll and ask a lot of questions. I will just give it a couple more seconds with the poll. I can see a lot of you have already put it up. Perfect. So you should all be able to see the results now. We have a lot of students from University of Leeds and Leeds Beckett, which is amazing. And a variety of students have already graduated. So 5 out of the 7 who filled out have graduated, 2 are current students, and 4 students are thinking about staying in Leeds and 3 are not sure. So Matt, you have the opportunity of convincing these students to stay in Leeds.
Perfect.
Perfect. I'll hand it over to you now, Matt, for your introduction and your presentation, and I will monitor the chat and the Q&A for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen to get started. There we go. So first of all, thank you for having me. So I'm Matt Wheeler, the digital director and co-founder of Made.by.studio. So I'm also a previous alumni from the University of Leeds. So I started my business alongside Sam Taylor, my co-founder, in about 3.5 years ago. So it's good to kind of provide people opportunities to kind of what routes they can go down in terms of digital in the Leeds City region. So a bit about what we do. Oh, that was not intended. There we go. So we are quite a small agency right now, as we only started quite recently, within 3.5 years. We're a small team of 5, so there's myself running the digital side, there's Sam running the creative side, and then we have Aaron, who's our developer, Tom, designer, and Mary, our marketing manager. So myself, Sam, and Mary are all from the University of Leeds, and Tom is from Leeds Arts University, I believe, as well. So you can see that we have a lot of previous graduates from the Leeds City region kind of in our business. So in terms of what we do as a company, so we craft digital applications that empower people. So what I mean by this is that we work with people-centric brands to develop digital strategies and connect with their audience at a deeper level. So this is essentially working through kind of digital consultancy, building web applications, websites, and kind of digital marketing campaigns to help them kind of reach their audience, build a better community with their customers, as well as ultimately increase their bottom line, because every company is looking increase their revenue, and that's where we kind of work with them to do all these different services. And one more kind of recent transition is the digital transformation areas, kind of looking at businesses, figuring out what their bottlenecks are and how can we improve their processes and optimize these to make them run easier, provide better life to their team, as well as kind of bring in that people-centric approach to kind of the internal systems within the companies. So here's like just an example of kind of the companies we work with. So we've worked with everything from like £1 billion companies. So for example, Pentland Group, which owns like JD Sports Kickers and all that, down to kind of local mental health charities, which is where we kind of get the really enjoyable projects, because we want to kind of help genuine lives, and that's going to be kind of our next shift, is where we're focusing more on kind of in medical, healthcare, wellbeing services, because if we're going to do something every day, we want to kind of help benefit the lives of people. So I just want to kind of highlight that Yorkshire's digital industry is one of the fastest growing in the whole UK. Not many people know about this, as it's not advertised massively, but there is slowly approaching becoming the tech hub of the North. So we've got kind of the recent movements from Channel 4 putting their headquarters in Leeds in the Majestic building, and that started this kind of trigger where there's a lot of investment in terms of digital and creative digital sector across the whole of Yorkshire, and in particular Leeds. So it is a very good place to kind of start considering getting into digital now, because it's growing so fast and there's always opportunities being like appearing online that you could always go for. And there's also kind of a lot of cross movement between the companies as well. So if you're working in one area of digital, you can always move to another area, and there's a lot of transferable skills. So there's a huge amount to learn. So this is kind of the format that I'm going to kind of go through. So these are the 4 questions where I'm going to kind of give an introduction into what digital and the creative digital media is, media sector is. And it's going to be kind of from the perspective of an agency background, because we run an agency, this is kind of where our point of view comes from. But I want to cater it to kind of not just us as a small business, but to larger businesses, kind of 40, 60, 80 person agencies as well, just to give you a full idea of what's available in the different roles and how you'll get into those. And then I'm going to talk about why you should consider it as a career option. What is the day-to-day life like in the digital media sector? It's going to be kind of a very kind of overview look. It's not going to go in detail. And then I'm also going to kind of go over to how do you get started in the creative and digital media sector. So we start with what exactly is the creative and digital media sector. So that involves everything in audio visual medium. So you've got online platforms, which is where our bread and butter is. So we're primarily kind of building websites, web applications and stuff like that, where you have users constantly interacting with like the user interface, and that's interacting with like APIs and backend systems. But there is also kind of so many different areas to get into. So you've got the whole digital marketing side, which covers like search engine optimization. You've got pay-per-click advertising. You've just got advertising of its own. You've also got kind of design area, which is the brand design, all like that collateral, and it kind of list goes on. I would like to kind of put all of the sectors in there, but the list is so massive. So it kind of takes a bit of research and kind of looking into what's available and what interests you to kind of develop personally and what you think you could progress in. So why should you consider it as a career option? So I'm just going to reiterate how fast Leeds is growing as well in digital sector. So Leeds now sits at the heart of UK's creative industries sector, a vital part of the economy, growing twice as fast as other sectors and employing over 2 million people. So just to reiterate again about how Channel 4 moved here, with Channel 4's move, they brought a lot of their staff from London up into Leeds. And this again has triggered this kind of massive shift into like the digital sector and a huge amount of investments. So you've got places like Nexus Leeds, which is part of the University of Leeds, is becoming kind of a tech hub. You've also got Platform down at the Leeds train station, which is also kind of a tech hub, which is nurturing these startups. And with their growth and their fast scaling, more and more opportunities are becoming available. So in terms of kind of the best bits of working in the creative digital media sector, so obviously, as I mentioned before, we're coming from like a agency point of view. So in terms of kind of what I personally think the best bits of working in this industry is, it's always progressive and collaborative. So especially creative agencies tend to be very forward focused, they're innovative, and it's all about the people. So if you want to kind of nurture creativity and provide the best solutions to your clients, you've got to have the right culture. So obviously that leads into my second one, where we're all cultural orientated. So we're constantly thinking of different ways how you can improve that creativity between the team and just make it a great place to work. Because if your team is overworked, you're not going to be getting very good solutions from the company, and you can't scale the company. So it's all about kind of building those relationships with our clients, and with the team to kind of produce the best you can. And also it's quite a competitive and progressive, there's a lot of progression behind kind of what you can do. So there is a huge amount of skill demand. So you can kind of get into the industry, there is that opportunity for vertical progression. So you can go from like junior to middleweight to senior, all the way up into kind of director level after like 10 to 15 years. But there is also this kind of horizontal progression. So for example, if you're working in a digital marketing agency and you started within kind of the search engine optimization space, but you realized that wasn't for you and you wanted to try something different, you can always move across in the sectors, kind of like pay-per-click advertising. We can even get into like software development or kind of just kind of other advertising areas as well. So there is this huge amount of transferable skills from the different elements of the sector. So whatever you choose, it doesn't mean that you have to kind of stay in that boundary, because there is this opportunity for movement. And then I'm going to talk about kind of our benefits. This is where we get this idea of like the progressive and culture focus, but we are one of the few companies in Leeds that have actually gone full into the 4-day working week. So we trialed this for about a year, and it's coming up to a year, so 10 months now, and we decided it is the best way of working for us. Like, we are producing better quality of work, we're providing a better work-life balance for our team members, because we value our team members' lives outside of work. We understand that no one wants to be doing constant overtime, no one wants to be working 24/7, so we give people that opportunity. We follow this rule called the 100-80-100 rule, which is essentially 100% of the pay, 8% of the time, but 100% of the kind of output. It's working really well for us. Also, we got kind of the flexible and hybrid working as well. So our team works we start between 8 and 10, finish between 4 and 6. But if you wanted to work from somewhere else, recently our developer was working from overseas for a couple of weeks, and as long as the work's done, we don't mind where it's done. So there's this huge amount of flexibility, because we want people to kind of have the right atmosphere and the right space to kind of produce the best work they can. And then we've all got all these other things. So like, all our team members have the best tech they can get, so they can work effectively. And I'm just going to go over opportunities to grow as well. So I mentioned before about this kind of collaborative culture. So we recently introduced these lunch and learns, which was kind of a recommendation from our designer saying this would be really good to kind of give opportunity for people to kind of research their own thing and use their own time and work to research a new technology, and then pitch that to the whole team to understand what we're doing, what's been going from. So we can all understand how we can collaborate together and bring in these new innovative ideas to improve workflows. And that could be benefit to us as a company, but also on client projects. Again, just going to touch on this innovative. So what does the day-to-day look like in the creative and digital media sector? So again, I'm going to go over kind of a very kind of overview here, but in summary, in terms of kind of like the agency life, it is primarily just creative problem solving. Every day you're working on something different. So one day you might be working on kind of a website for a local mental health charity, and then the next day you could be working on a website for a construction company. They're two polar opposite kind of sectors and industries. Like, the needs for one is complete opposite to the other, because construction is quite kind of dated, it's very blocky, but mental health is quite floaty. It's like got colors and encourages kind of like that friendliness. So you're always kind of constantly figuring out, how do I relate this kind of work that I'm doing, if it's a design or a website or kind of advertising, to this particular sector. And that's kind of what makes it so enjoyable, because you're not doing the same monotonous task every single day. It's going to be different. Another one is work-life balance. Obviously, we're kind of biased in this because we do the 4-day week, but quite often in terms of kind of these bigger companies, you'll see kind of these flexible working policies. And I know a common one is that a lot of companies are now introducing this 1-month work from anywhere, because again, they understand that people need that flexibility, because it just benefits like mental health and it benefits productivity. So it's just a great thing to have. And you'll see that across the board. And then continuous learning is the final one. So some days are admittedly the same, although most days are something different. And the digital industry just moves so fast. So if you're working in kind of a certain framework or methodology, within the next 3 to 6 to 9 months, you might be working a completely different way because the industries move so fast, you've got to keep up with it. And if you're not, you're kind of going to fall behind, and it just makes things difficult. So again, it kind of ties into this just kind of problem solving, because you're continuously learning how to do this problem solving in this kind of new methodologies, which again makes it really fun. I love it personally. And then, how do you get started in the creative and digital media sector? So I've kind of put like a very rough overview in terms of kind of the roles you'll find. Again, there is so much more to this, but this is based on kind of our experience and like who we work with and who we employ. So we're primarily kind of a company of like developers, designers, marketers, and soon to be project managers. So within the next year, we're going to be advertising roles for a project manager to kind of take on like all the projects and encourage those to kind of work in the most effective way and efficient way for our clients. But if you're working within like kind of 40, 60, 80 person agencies in the digital sector, you'll see a lot more kind of a lot more roles such as kind of these delivery managers, analysts, copywriters, PR executives, and all this kind of stuff. So they're essentially kind of something for everyone. And one of the big benefits you'll see is that there is a huge amount of kind of transferable skills. So even if you have a degree in such as like a STEM subject, so in maths, there is always that opportunity to kind of get into kind of like SEO or social media. It might seem like there's not kind of any relevance, although the key thing people look out for is this kind of creative problem solving as well as the time management. As long as you can display that, like it can be transferred across. And another example is if you're doing kind of an English literature degree, like you can get into kind of copywriting, you can get into, again, all these management roles, because you just need to display that you have good quality writing, you can write creatively and deliver it to the expectations of the company and the client. And then that's kind of the final slide in terms of like the industry. There is a lot more to this. I put my little disclaimer in there. Well, there's like a high level view. The best way to do it is research the roles that are available. So I've given like a really kind of brief summary of what there is, but if you kind of search between the companies, there's a lot more kind of defined roles where it could be to your exact interests. Although when you're researching these, whatever you identify as your area of interest doesn't necessarily be the thing that you'll be doing for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. Once you're in that company and you've kind of tried that out for a whole year, there is that potential for that horizontal movement to try something else. And as long as you display that you've kind of got the willing to learn these new skills and you're basically managing the expectations of what's required from you, a company is always kind of going to be happy to move you around to make sure that you are performing to the best you can and doing the things you actually want to do. And then the key thing to kind of get those initial kind of ins to the companies is to stand out. So especially kind of in the creative digital sector, a lot of it is portfolio based. So when we're taking on job roles, if we get an abundance of kind of, for example, 100 CVs, if it's just written text, there's no one really standing out. Although if someone sends over a CV with a visual aid and portfolio of work to display what they've done and what they can do, that is automatically going to get more priority because you can actually see the visual output of the creative problem solving that you're looking for. And a lot of the things we're looking for is a good culture fit as well. So skills can always be taught. You don't necessarily have to be the best at a certain skill set. It's just as long as you would fit that team and we know they would fit that collaborative culture we're trying to build, we can put them on that right course. So give them the right kind of means to learn these new skill sets. As the primary thing is just kind of fitting into that team to prevent kind of office politics, because that's the worst thing you can have in creative agencies, because it basically breaks that collaborativeness as well. So that was a very, very kind of brief run through of the creative digital media sector from like the point of view from the agency. But if anyone does have any questions for me, please do let me know. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn via the QR code if you wanted to. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for that amazing presentation, Matt. So we have the Q&A option. Anyone who has any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat or do it as a Q&A. And coming back from that presentation, Matt, I did have a few questions. So, in the last couple of slides, you touched upon transferable skills and how, no matter what degree subject you're from, you can, make them work out for you for whichever career you're going for. So let's say in creative industries, what are the specific transferable skills that you think that you'd be looking for, or any certain similar company in the industry would be looking for?
I think the key thing is it would be this time management, especially for us. We're a service-based business, so unfortunately you have to work to the demand of the clients. So you've got to make sure that you can meet those deadlines, you can meet those targets at all times. And I think every single degree, you will have to create that time management, and you spend those years kind of learning to do that effectively. So that's the number one kind of thing we'd look out for. And then the second one is this kind of creative problem solving. So thinking of an innovative solution to do something different. So not following the norm, because there's usually like one way to do all these things, but if you can think of a different angle of how you can solve this particular problem, and that both drives value to the company and the client, that is going to get kind of a lot more input, because that is where you get the enjoyment out of it. You're trying something new, you're being innovative, and that is what is excitable. Because like if you're doing that same thing every single day, eventually it does get boring. So you're always trying to kind of progress yourself personally, I think. And they're like kind of the skill sets we're looking at. It's essentially kind of the right personality traits. We want someone that's eager to learn and kind of always wants to try new things, because that just benefits everyone, I think.
That's great. Thank you so much, Matt. Everyone else, please feel free to put your questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep bothering Matt with mine. So I have another question. So you touched a bit about portfolio and how, that can make you stand out among a bunch of applications. So for someone like me, for example, I'm interested in marketing, but I don't know where to get started with my portfolio, because when you're at the university, you're very much around academic CVs. So, you're basically just typing up your CV in a 2-page format. So if you want to give advice to someone who wants to start a portfolio but don't know where to go about with it, what would you suggest?
I think the best way, in my opinion, is there is very recently the Department of Education has released a lot of courses. So if you're kind of wanting to get a particular skill set, let's say it's in digital marketing, there is these 12-week courses which are fully funded by the government, and they'll give you the brief and the insights and kind of the education in a very quick way to build out that portfolio. I think that would be the best route there, as long as it's kind of fully funded by the government. And then also there is websites such as like kind of Udemy, I think, where you can sign up for these courses, and you can kind of in 2 to 3 weeks start building up kind of that initial kind of portfolio based evidence, because you don't really need a huge amount. You just need to display that you do have kind of the knowledge and you have the willing to learn these new things. But I'd say like, yeah, the DFE courses are definitely the best resource, because I've put a load of people forward for those to reskill as kind of software developers now.
Perfect, thank you for that. I did see a question come in from Cheryl. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, please correct me in the chat. But Cheryl saying, hi, thank you so much for the amazing sharing. I would like to ask that, is there any hard skills that the digital industry is more likely to be looking for? For example, analyzing skills or some specific softwares?
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one to answer, because every company has a different way of doing it. So in terms of kind of, let's say it's in kind of a software development role or something like that, there is hundreds and hundreds of different kind of languages. So it does take a bit of researching to kind of figure out which route do you want to go down, or like figuring out what is the best thing for you, and you'll get the most enjoyment out, because the key thing is you need to be able to enjoy it. In terms of kind of specific softwares, I wouldn't say there's any like in particular, because it's very kind of role dependent. So what we use as kind of software developers is extremely different to someone that's just doing kind of copywriting. So our kind of marketing manager in the office, they're constantly in Google Docs, and that's kind of just all their skill set is just writing in Google Docs. Whereas my role is kind of constantly writing different bits of code, APIs and stuff. So I think it's the case of researching the role and seeing what the requirements from the different employees are, and then researching how to kind of work with those and educating yourself on those different bits of software and skill sets.
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. I hope that answers your question, but if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to post it in the chat. And yes, if we have any more questions, please keep them coming. Matt has his lovely presentation prepared, but of course we have all this time now for questions. By the time we're waiting for that, another one from me actually. So being a student, I hear all these questions. So, I'm just putting that all out here in front of you. So my next question was someone who would like to be in the creative industry, especially, the digital side of it, but they don't like software stuff or something like coding. What are the other options available for them if they are creative and they have that background, but they don't want to go in the software or coding side of it?
So there's a lot of different routes you can go down. So there's kind of, in terms of what my knowledge is kind of search engine optimization work, which is essentially kind of copywriting, but catered to the search engines. There's pay-per-click advertising, which is basically just writing advertising campaigns and working with designers to produce the visual aids to go with those bits of advertising. But there is also kind of the client and team-facing roles as well. So it's not just kind of like developers, marketers, and all that kind of stuff. There is these account managers, which will be working directly with client, understanding what are their needs, and the creative problem solving in that respect is you're figuring out what is the client's needs, how can we kind of figure out what their opportunities and threats are and offering them solutions in that way. And then there's also kind of the project management roles where you're working with the actual developers and designers, figuring out how do we make this project run in the most effective way? How do you make sure that all these 3 or 4 team members are working in synchronization? And again, that's a different case of problem solving, because you've got to solve the problem of 4 people and manage them all in the most effective way. So there is essentially kind of something for everyone in that respect.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And our next question is for you about your job, man. How do you cope with peaks and workload as a small team?
Yeah, this is something we've only really figured out in the past few months, and it comes down to kind of having the right processes involved. So a year ago, our processes were awful, like they were almost non-existent. We spent the past year so we use a project management system called ClickUp, and building a customization into that, and we can actually see exactly when projects are starting, ending, when should we get feedback from clients, when should we kind of get invoices and stuff like this. And by doing that, we can actually prevent these peaks of workload coming in, because we can see the actual percentage capacity available from our whole team and pipeline that next project to come in, let's say 4 weeks from now, because we know that our capacity will be available at that point, and kind of being honest and transparent with the client. But it did take us nearly 3 years to figure that out and prevent that from happening. So it's not an easy task.
Yeah, I do understand that. I think that's where you were coming from, that in a creative industry, you do need that time management skills as well, so that you know what's your priority and what you need to get on with at first. But yeah, thank you for that. Another coming to you personally. So you said you started made.by.studio with one of your colleagues after you graduated from University of Leeds. So what inspired you to get into this sector and to explore this creative industry?
So what inspired me was my first business. I wouldn't really call it a business. My first idea failed. My original plan wasn't to go to university. It was to start a design studio when I was 17, 18 years old. And then I built this app with a friend, but I had no idea what I was doing, and the business model failed. But when that failed, I did go to university. But from then on, I spent kind of all my evenings kind of figuring out, how do you design an agency? Because it's always just been a curiosity for me, because I'm a very kind of analytical thinker. I love designing processes. I love understanding processes and how we can optimize them. So for me, it just made sense to kind of do this. And then I met Sam, my co-founder, he's very kind of, he's a very good talker. So he's really good at the relationship side of stuff. So we have this very good skill set where he can work with the clients really well, and I can kind of solve the problems and offer the solutions that are going to provide them value. Yeah, it's kind of the main inspiration was a first failure. I was like, I'm going to do it again, but better.
It's actually really inspiring that, failure led you to make something so, powerful in the industry at the moment, that you're here talking to other people to join the creative industry. So yeah, that is really inspiring. Thank you so much for that. We have another question, which is from Chaitna, and she's asking that I'm a marketing and digital strategy graduate. I have past experience in quantitative insights and I want to move into digital analytics now. Do I need to have certification in something like Google Analytics to start in the sector, or can I explore later?
I'd say it's good to kind of have that behind you. So there is the Google certifications you go through. So especially if you kind of do the analytics side, it's really good just to kind of have that. So when you do go for an interview or applying for jobs, it can give you the edge in front of other candidates. Because if you have kind of the certification for search ads and written ads and shopping ads and stuff like that against someone that doesn't, the employer is going to understand that you already have kind of the basic knowledge, and they know that it's going to be easier to kind of teach you the skill sets and kind of get you inside their processes to develop further.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's coming back again to your presentation of how to stand out. So Chaitna, as Matt said, a certificate like this would really help you stand out. So do go for it. Also, just to add, if you're current students, you can access LinkedIn Learning. They also have quite a lot of exciting and interesting courses going on. There's also something called Coursera. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about it, but I quite like it. I might be a geek, who knows, but it's actually quite interesting, and you can do these courses which are similar to the Google Analytics one as well. So do look into those things. But yeah, any more? Do we have any other questions from that? And as my colleague Tom's typed in the chat, that we have a feedback form for future Inleeds sessions. So please fill that out. It would be great to get an insight of what we need to do for the next sessions. And if you've enjoyed these sessions, and as I said in the beginning, the session is recorded and we are going to upload the recording with all the other sessions on the Inleeds YouTube channel. So you can watch it back and go through Matt's amazing presentation again. All right, if we don't have any more questions, we will end the session here. Thank you so much for everyone who joined the session. I hope it was exciting and interesting for you, and I hope Matt convinced you to stay in Leeds and join the creative sector. I am surely convinced, and thank you so much to Matt again for the amazing presentation, and thanks for answering all my questions and all the other people's questions as well.
Thanks so much.